Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for taking your time to join this call. We're excited for another session where we're going to do a deep dive into farm admin and just see how much value you can get out of it. We're just gonna give it another 2 minutes to let a few people join, and then we'll get started in 2 minutes. Thank you.
Hello, Mr. Dalker. Could you please make me co-host? Thank you.
All right, thanks. All right, so the time is now 15:04 and we're good to start. So again, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. So we'll start off by just a few words from Mr. Tommy. Just open up with a few words and then we'll get right into our deep dive session.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Mine is actually to just welcome everyone back for this training and most sincerely thank Doraya and his team. And I wish everyone a fruitful learning. Thank you. Let's learn.
Excellent. Thank you very much. All right, so we'll dive right into our first deep dive. So the objectives today is, we don't want theory. We want to get into the two and start to set things up. The idea is at the end of this session, you should be comfortable with setting up your farm profile and setting up my trees module and also setting up your people, how you manage your staff essentially on this platform. So to start off, let me come to this picture. So most farms uh, will have some type of layout, some type of you're gonna organize your farm into sections and subsections. You might call them fields, you might call them different things. But your shamba is I'm learning some Swahili too. Your shamba will have some type of organization. So farm admin starts with this idea that you need to break it up into sections, and then those subsections, we have subsections that we call blocks, and you want to reflect this in farm admin so that you can now say, for example, my group of trees are in section 1, block A, or section 2, block C, and so on and so forth. And you might have other things like your reservoir or your equipment, your warehouse, and things like that. They have to belong to some location that you can easily track and reference on your farm. So if we go to Farm Admin, once you've logged in and you go to my site, the first thing we encourage you to do is to go to site info. And this is where you're going to complete setting up your farm profile. So at a bare minimum, you're gonna see that the name is already there as you signed up, but you go in and set up the size of your farm. When you just sign up, our system puts the default size of 10 hectares. And basically you can go in there and correct that so that you put the actual size of land you have. Then you set up the time zone. This is a zone that will be used when it comes to interpreting time. And then you put in details like when you started operating. If you just started this year, uh, and all this, you see where that information starts to be used later on the platform. Uh, Under site info, you see we have 5 tabs here. And if you didn't have some modules like finance modules, the financial setting module wouldn't be there. But there's address and coordinates. So here you specify the address of your farm location, and you're going to see that these things start to show up in places like your reports and your invoices and things like that. Um, for reference, these are GPS coordinates. So you want to maybe to understand this better, I'll go all the way to the end. The final tab here is your editable map. As we shared briefly in that overview, you're able to plot the geolocation of your farm, and you can start to create the outline and map out your fields and things like that. For you to start there, you have to first provide some GPS information. So we encourage farmers first to start with a reference coordinate. So this is the general GPS location that is identifying your farm. This is what, let's say if I Googled your farm, this is the location I expect to get. You'd put that in here. And then below that, you have your property coordinates. So, you might have a rectangular or it's a square or so on shape for your farm, but from your property title deed and things like that, you have the coordinates that are associated with it. So this uses WGS84, which is what we use in our GPS systems, and that's what Google uses. So if you have the Google coordinates for your pegs, you'd enter them in here. Now, I know a number of farmers already started trying this out. If you're using to capture, you can use your device essentially to say use the current location. Let's say you're at your farm, you want to do it quickly. You come to the field, you click on use device current location. Our app is going to prompt to say, do you accept that we capture the location? And if you say yes, it'll get the value of the coordinates exactly where you're standing, and it will populate the appropriate field. Now, some device GPS locations will have a lot of decimal points, if you will. And I think we're limited to about 15 here. So if you find the number that comes from your device is a bit too long, just feel free to, remove a few decimal points at the end. The location will generally still be accurate, okay? And when you finish that, you save. Then you have at least some basic information in terms of address and GPS location to do the next thing.
That was started today.
No, next
Or is
week.
that a question? Oh, okay. So try to be on mute if you're not speaking. I'll be pausing for questions as we did the last time. The next tab is the financial settings. So this is where at a bare minimum you want to specify the currency. And this information is used by the financial module because I think we'll cover in detail the financial module. But at a bare minimum, it does require you set up your currency, and it also requires that you set up some profit center. And a profit center is simply saying if you're doing just avocado production, you'd have one profit center and you track your income and expense on just that center. But if you do other things on your farm, like you have a nursery or you have livestock and you have other things you're doing, you set up profit centers for all those and you track transactions for them. For the initial farm valuation, it'll come into your farm projection and valuation reporting. For day-to-day, it's not used. So when you're not ready to use that feature, you just set them to 0. I think that's a default. They default to 0. Active modules is where you're able to control what's active. So the philosophy we have in Farm 360 and building farm admin is it's supposed to scale for the smallest farmer to the largest farmer, but it shouldn't feel bloated. So we don't want you looking at things that you don't care about just because they're in the software. So using active modules, that's the first level that lets you customize. So if you say, hey, for my people, I'm not using training logs, you can check them off, then it's not there. I'm only doing employee records or finance module, and whatever you're not using, you can uncheck so that essentially everything you're saying, all the menu items you're saying should be things that you care about. Okay? And so that's on the active module. So we expect that once you get familiar, you come in here and really fine tune and just put in the modules, activate the modules that you care about the most. Last but not the least, as I said, is your map. Just zoomed out here. And based on the GPS coordinates that you've set up for your property. So if you come here, I come back here. The way I set up A, B, C, D as my coordinates here, when you come to the editable map, you see those coordinates plotted here. And the first time you're here, so let me show what you would see the first time. I can say delete outline. Yeah. So when you come here the first time, you see that the pins or the beacons would be on the map, but there'd be no outline. And then you'd say you go into edit mode and you can draw an outline by selecting the 2 here in the middle. And it's as simple as you click on the first point and then the second point. And if let's say you had many other points, it's quite flexible. You just keep going and plotting until you get the correct layout of your farm, and essentially it'll show you the line there that it's activated. Then when you're done, you just click save. And once you have it saved, you can edit afterwards. Okay, let's say I got out of here and then I came back, outline, just zoom in a bit here. Save. Okay. If I say no, this is not as accurate as can be, I need to edit, we can click edit and you can move this around and you can add other things because we know, for example, that you might have a different shape. They might not be straight lines. And the tool makes it very easy for you to adjust the lines to match exactly how your farm is mapped out. Then when you're done, you click save. And at least that's a basic feature where you can start to organize and map your farm. Okay. So coming back to that picture I said here, we have many sections. So when you come into Farm Admin, under site info, you see site sections and subsections. So when you just activate your account, Farm Admin will create two sections and it will give it a size of 5, I believe. It will have section 1 and section 2. So the first thing second thing, I guess, is for you to come in and say, no, my farm has 4 sections, or I only have 1. If there's only 1, you can delete and say, I manage the whole thing as 1 section. If you have other sections, you can go ahead and, create the way you have your farm laid out, and you can specify the size. You might say I'm doing, I use acres to measure my land. You specify how you do it. Click save, and you see that section appears there. The subsections in here, they're referred to as site section blocks. These are the subsections that belong to any section. You're going to see, for example, section 1 has 2 blocks, and we can add another one. Just to demonstrate. Block 3. And I'll say block 3, let's say it's 1 acre. And I even know what type of soil it is, and I select which section that's in. I'll just go with 1 for now. But you know what? I'll go with 2. Okay. All right, so basically you'd go in and create the subsections, and you can create as many as you need to reflect the exact layout of your farm. And that's pretty much sets up your farm profile. And at this point, you're ready to move on to the other parts of Farm Admin. So I'll take a pause here for any questions before we dive into my trees.
We don't have any questions in the chat, Mr. Darko, but I don't know if anybody wants to unmute to ask a question at this time.
Okay.
Maybe just a quick one. If you have probably your farm is split into maybe 2 or 3 different locations, are you able to capture that as well, or must it be one farm attached end to end?
Yes, so good question. So farms, we have the concept of multiple locations. So you'd set up a second location for that second farm, and then you can do like that. So let me show you something here. Just to answer your question there, I will open a new tab and open a test account which has multiple locations. Okay. So here's an example of a farm that has multiple locations. Where you have your farm code, it becomes a drop-down menu when you have more than one location, and you're able to select to say this is farm 1, you can go to farm 2, and so on. You can switch between the farms you have. And as you see in this example, for example, farm 3, you see has trees, and we have livestock there as well activated. If you go to farm 2, you find farm 2 has a similar setup, has livestock as well. And you go to farm 1, you find there's nothing. It's just it's part of an outgrower type of farm. It's a member of a cooperative, but it's not active with any other modules. So that's how we go about essentially managing multiple locations. It's by setting up different profiles for them. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, that's fine. Thanks.
Excellent. All right, so moving into my trees. So we've finished setting up our profile for the farm. We go into my trees. So my trees forms a foundation for managing your avocado production. We know that for most farmers, you're going to have trees organized in terms of cohorts. You might organize them based on saying, here's my Hass avocados, my Pinkerton, or you might be mixing them up. But most of the time, most farmers will organize them based on when you planted them. So you might have trees that are 3 years old, 6 years old, 1 year old. It's up to you. But what my trees does for you is, you're able to go in, create a tree group. We call them tree group using whatever uh, grouping mechanism you choose. We expect that, you're gonna say, give it a name, specify how many trees are there, at least in the original count. The sections that we talked about, that match your farm, you'd say, where is this group? Where did I plant them? So if I say that in section 1, might even go as far as saying I put them in block 2. What type? It's avocado. What's the variety? You'd select the appropriate variety, and then you specify when you planted them. And you might be planning ahead to say, I'm just getting organized here. I'm actually going to plant these, in December or something. You'd select that these are planned, and then you'd specify a future date when you expect to plant them. But if it's those that you've planted already, let's say we planted these in 2023, let's say December 31st. Basically specify this basic information. I click save. You have notes. If you have any special thing that makes sense in your context, you can put that there. You click save. Just like that, you see I have group A here that I created. So at a bare minimum, I'm able to track how many numbers, how many trees I have, and how old they are, what's the variety. Once you've created them, you notice that whenever you're creating anything in Farm Admin, our philosophy again is to go with the bare minimum first, knowing that if there's additional information or things you need to tweak about your group, you can always go into edit and provide more details. So to create a group initially, you just provide name, number of trees, and when you started, and the variety, done. Now you can go in, because we know on an ongoing basis, you have other details now, like, hey, what's your planting pattern? So you might say, I'm doing a square pattern and I'm planting 5 meters by 5 meters. So you're able to specify your spacing. And by selecting auto calculate land utilization, you find that the tool is going to calculate how much land is used by the trees that you planted, and so on and so forth there. And I click save, for example, and I get back in. I can provide more details. Say, hey, I'm preparing to project how many trees how much I'm harvesting. So I've sent my people, they've scanned through this group, and we know that, out of the 2,000, let's say 1,500 have fruits, And then you say, on average, I had my people sample. So you do sampling here. We don't expect you to be counting each and every tree. Maybe you could, but you don't have to. So you sample your trees, get the average number of fruits per tree. Let's say I say 400. And as they start to mature, I can say, what's the average weight uh, of the fruit per tree. And by providing that information, I'm able to project out how many fruits I expect and the total weight in kilos that I expect. And you find this information would already help me with planning and things like that. Uh, Recent activity, uh, it shows what's been happening with this particular group. So here we don't see activity. That's probably because in this test account, we don't have it, but it will show the next section that we talk about. All right, so having captured that, and just so perhaps I'll go to tree reports, just to give you an idea. Farms 360 in Farm Admin will give you a monthly report of your trees, and the report will have sections, everything from how many groups you have, the number of trees in each group, uh, any activities in terms of life cycle logs, which I'll explain shortly, and the fruit production projections based on what you just showed me uh, entering. Based on the details you provided for all your groups, it's going to calculate, use the average weight for the fruits you have, how many trees you're expecting to have fruits, the average number of fruits per tree, and things like that. And then it will give you these numbers. And these numbers become very important for you to plan and project out as you get ready to harvest and to project your sales and sign contracts and things like that. It will also show you if you've been having some disease treatments in your orchards, if you've noticed and have been treating pests and things like that, it'll give you an indication of all that. And last but not the least, it's going to give you a summary of your management activities. So what exactly has been done in terms of management for your trees, and I'll show you where that's coming from. But the report, especially for business people, they might not necessarily be on the farm or they might not be there all the time, but you have your staff there, and your staff would really be the ones creating these records and these activities, and the tool will summarize, and from the report you can see easily what's going on. So how do you get this information in here so that the tool helps you to log all this? Let me go to tree logs. So tree logs is essentially what we expect to be happening every day. It's a record of everything that's happening with your trees, whether you're fertilizing them, whether you're spraying fungicides, whether you're doing some flow management, you're planting new trees or trees died, everything. Essentially, our philosophy is you should have your employees recording absolutely everything they're doing on your orchard, because that's where the power comes from. When we're talking about all these other things like AI, it's all about taking advantage of the data that you're having. So if you're not generating that data, even if the AI is there, it won't help you. But by recording everything, I put water today, I put fertilizer, I did these things, the data as it collects with time, in addition to providing you the reports and things like that, you can do analysis on them, and the AI could kick in to help you to say, hey, you know what? Here's a problem we're seeing, and here's what we think you can do. So with that said, creating a log, it's just as simple as you click your plus there, specify when is this activity for. Let's say I'm a bit late. This actually happened last month. I'd say this was on the 18th. Ideally, you want your team doing this every single day. You select the group for which this activity is being logged for, and it can either be for the entire group, or it could be for an individual tree, or it could be on the land or the field. And the categories that show up in terms of what you can do are controlled by whether you're saying this activity log is for the group, the individual, or the field. So for example, if I want to say, yes, it's this group, but I'm actually creating a record for what happened on the field, on the land. So I might have been doing land management or things like land preparation, or I might have been doing a soil test. I would select that, for example, and select that I was doing soil testing and proceed like that. If I, on the other hand, said it was an individual tree, then I'd have to specify what's the row number and the tree number. So I might say, regardless of your planting pattern, our system expects you always have a row number and a tree number within that row that you've planted. That's how our system is able to identify a unique tree, so that if you come into that final layout, our system says, how do I zoom in and talk about an exact tree? I specify the farm, the section, the subsection, the tree group, then within that tree group, the row number, and then the tree number. And you find that whether you have 2,000 trees or 20,000 trees, you can uniquely record something specific to a tree and keep that history, and you can follow up and things like that. So this example, let's say this was specific to a tree, then I would say it's row number 2, tree number 10. What did I do? I was adding some fertilizers. Oh, maybe let me say I was doing pest control. So I sprayed a pesticide. There was a fungicide. Let's see, do I have inventory? No, I don't in this test account. Next time we talk about my inventory, where if you have fungicides, for example, in your inventory, you're able to say, use my inventory, and you see in this drop down, you get a list of items, fungicides that are in your inventory that you can say I'm using in my trees. But for now, assuming I don't, I'll say I use 10. Let's say this one I am tracking in terms of weight. Let's say it's kilograms. Maybe it was something like copper oxychloride. I can do that. I've specified, I click save. Oh, yeah. Last but not the least, you have to select who performed the activity. So this will be the list of the employees that you've defined in your system. So it might be one person or several people who did this. And once you've selected the performers of that activity, you click save. And just like that, we created this activity for a specific tree. Once you get back into this view that shows you all the logs you've created, you notice that when it's for a specific tree, it's going to have it's going to have a single tree icon here, and it will say R a number and then T number. So R is just to say the row number and the tree number, so that you can say I created, in group A, row 2, tree number 10, is where we recorded this activity that was done. And if I just come back here just so you get the complete view here, and you see once we get to the calendar part of it, the idea is these categories are supposed to be comprehensive. And as you go about, basically we're saying orchard monitoring and scouting, disease prevention, flow management, fruit management, and so on. This should cover everything that's happening in your avocado orchards. If it's not, we welcome the feedback to say, here's something that happens that we couldn't find the appropriate category to record it under, and we'll gladly extend and make updates to make sure it's completed, okay? With that said, having recorded a lot of these logs behind the scene monthly and quarterly and annually, you'll be getting those reports, some of that information I showed in the reports. Okay. Any questions up to this point before I go into the tree calendar?
We don't have questions in the chat, but Monica, you had unmuted yourself. Did you want to ask a question? If you want to unmute yourself again. Anybody have a question? Feel free to unmute yourself.
Okay. All right. So moving on to the tree calendar. This is one of my favorite parts of this solution. It's the one that essentially the goal is for it to take out the guesswork out of what you need to do month by month. And this is where it's not just helping you record, but it's also educating and guiding. So it's like having your own agronomist friend nearby advising you what to do when. So our calendars are regional. So disclaimer that we all need to know as we go through this trial. This calendar is based on the Southern Hemisphere in Africa. And we know that in Kenya, you are very blessed. You have 2 seasons because the equator runs through. You almost get the best of both worlds. So you have a bit of Southern Hemisphere, Northern Hemisphere situation happening there. So you have 2 harvest seasons. So that's good. So this calendar, for example, let me go to phenology, shows you based on the BBCH scale. So for the agronomists, that's the scientific mapping where you observe what's going on inside a tree over a period of time, ideally over an entire year, and you're able to observe what's going on in the tree. Like when is it in dormancy? When do the buds start forming? When do they stop? When does flowering start? When do fruits start to show up on the tree? When do we start to see new growth, like the new leaves and new stems being formed? And, under the hood as well, when do you see the roots starting to expand and grow more aggressively compared to other stages? So having observed all that in a general sense in the Southern Hemisphere in Africa, this is the cycle that most avocado trees will follow, that, around May, they have a very short period where they're dormant, and then bud development will start, and then flowering starts to kick in around June, July, August. It goes in some cases right into September, and then fruit formation starts, and it will go and go and go until, for most of Southern Africa, you expect that the fruits will be big and ready to harvest around March, April, May, June, that kind of thing. And then within the tree, you have leaf flash. This is when your tree is starting to make lots of new leaves, lots of new stems. And then, of course, root flash, where the root system is just expanding and your tree is making a lot more roots than was there. The idea with this information is to say, avocado, while it's just a tree, there is a science to it, and you want to feed your tree and put a management plan for your trees that go with what's happening with your tree. Just like a child, you have a nutrition plan based on the stage they're at. And essentially, we take that concept and we build the calendar around it. So you find that if you come here to the annual calendar, going across the different management activities, you can click on each month. So if I click on May, I can see the, with checklists, what needs to be happening for that month. And I can click on July, and same thing. The calendar will guide what needs to happen. Again, informed by what's happening inside the tree. For example, we know that when you're flowering, things like boron are important. So the calendar will tell you when to apply boron, either just before flowering starts and maybe to guide you as well to top up as the flowering is in progress and so on and so forth. So it's really good. We basically see this as it takes the guesswork out. And it's quite flexible. I showed this view where it's showing everything for the month. You might be saying, hey, under fertilization, what should I do in June? You click on June and it'll have what needs to happen. And in this case, it even has some notes of what you need to do and why. So that's kind of cool. Okay. In addition to telling you what to do when and showing you the phenology of your trees, it has calendar notes, and these are all being enhanced as we go, but essentially calls out all the activities, puts a description of what's going on in the tree and what you should do and why and things like that. Quite detailed information, some of it very technical. But the idea is to have this resource in the palms of your hands that you could reference at any time. Last but not the least, it also has the diseases that are very common with avocado production. And the general format for this information is it calls out, in this case, the disease, highlights what the causes are, gives you some information on how to prevent, and also gives you information about how to treat that disease. Okay. And our team is working on, in addition to this, we know that I might say this one is saying, well, some are obvious, like powdery mildew, you'd know. But if somebody goes like, armillaria root rot, it might not be that obvious for me. So as part of the AI module, we're gonna soon be rolling out the idea that if a farmer can take a picture, say, here's the disease I'm observing on my tree, and then the system will auto detect, see that, this is sun blotch or something, and then tie that to the instructions on what the farmer can do about it. Okay, so this rounds up the tree calendar. And we believe this would be very, very helpful because essentially you're not guessing anymore. You would do exactly what needs to happen when, and that will maximize your production, increase your yield, and help you to solve and prevent problems up front. I'll take a pause here for any questions.
There are no questions in the chat at the moment.
All right, good. So then, I know we're running a bit short on time. This shouldn't take too long. I'll switch to the next module, my people, for today, and then we can pause for the last five minutes or so, to take any final questions. So essentially, we know that, we like trees. We're running this business, but you need people. You need the people to manage and to do all these things. And FarmAdmin helps you to organize that as well. So the first thing you do in My People is you set up teams. So you click on teams, and you can create as many teams again based on how you've organized your farm. So in this example, we have the root, which says it's the entire farm. So this would be your entire team for everybody. And then, under the root, you have a team that does avocado nurseries, and the other one that does the fields. And you can select, for example, who's the team lead or the manager. You can specify all those things on your teams. And yeah, so see, I set that. And I'm going to select who's the lead for this team. Let's say Joy. Click save. So you have the team set up. Then you go to people. So these would be all the employees that you have. And I'll just click create here. For you to create an employee record, just, specify name. Oh, I can't type. And say John. Specify name, gender, the role. So what role is this employee playing on your farm? So there might be a farm manager or a general worker or whatever the role is. And we know that, like, if I say farm or field supervisor, this is a generic role, but internally you might call them differently. We might say, for us, we say this is Barnum Kubwa 2. That might be how we refer to that role internally, and you can specify what that title is. Employment type, let's say, it's full-time employment. You specify your ID. Again, it's a flexible field here. You specify exactly how you specify your employee IDs. And then you assign them, which team are they part of? So they're part of the avocado nurseries team, avocado fields team. When did you hire them? Then specify it's I hired them in May, and can provide their phone number. Click save, and you've created yourself an employee record. So now that we've created an employee record, what can we do with it? We have what we call people logs. This is a record of, again, similar to the way we're saying trees. Now for people, you want to keep a record of, all the relevant activities that your people are doing at a bare minimum. FarmAdmin lets you create their timesheet. So we expect that whenever your people are working, at least keeping track of what they're doing. So today, if I said today, my people, David Juma worked. What did they do? I'll say they worked. If they were on vacation, I'd say they're on vacation, or they're sick, or on paid vacation, or they just didn't show up for work. I'll keep a record of that. But let's say David is a good employee. He 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 came for work. Let's say he started at 8 a.m. and he worked up to 4 p.m. He had a lunch break between noon and 1 p.m. And if you're not tracking the actual, hour by hour type of work, this would be good enough. This would say, yeah, I recorded how much they worked. I know the total hours, done. I'll click save, and that would be okay. if you go further to say, I actually want to break down how they, what did they actually do the first hour, second hour, and so on, so that I can keep track of what's going on, you can click on include breakdown, and then you have an option. You click a plus to add an entry item, and you can say what they did. Let's say they did some field work. What was the field work? They were doing some spraying, and they did that for 2 hours. And then you can say, okay, what else? After they finished that, they went ahead and they were transplanting, or they were planting some trees for another, say, 6 hours. You can go as many as you need to capture exactly what was happening. And when you're done, you click save. And that record comes here that they worked. Global gap, we talk about global gap. It likes to see that you have a development plan for your people and that you are training them. So one of the things that this tool lets you do is you're able to keep a track of when you're training your employees, and that training could be internal, where you're training them yourself on the farm, or external, you've either taken them outside or you've hired an external person or company to train them. So, for example, you could say safety training. Okay, so this employee did some safety training today, able to capture that. How long was the training, and so on and so forth. I won't finish it, but you get the idea. And so here in this account, not shown, but coming soon, similar to the way we have reports here, you see people reports, and those reports will be anything from timesheets to trading reports and so on, everything that has to do with people. Okay. And with that, I think for today, this is as far as we go. So we covered setting up your profile, your farm profile, and then we covered setting up your trees, organizing them by groups, and how you record the management activities you're doing for your trees. We covered calendars, tree calendars, which will guide the farmer on a month-by-month basis, what they need to do exactly, and very comprehensive with notes to go with the calendar. And last but not the least, we know that people are the true power you have on your farming business. So we showed how you can set up your teams, keep your employee records, and record timesheets and other logs that would go for people. So hopefully, for those that have signed up for a free account, you can go ahead and feel confident that you can set these things up and start to get value already from this tool. So thank you for your time. I will pause we have 5 minutes left for any questions or comments.
There is one question in the chat. Does the tree calendar get info for the tree log? This is from Mr. Marcus.
Okay. Does it get for tree what?
Does the tree calendar get information for the tree log? I think he's trying to ask if there's a link.
From the tree log. So does the tree calendar get info from the tree log?
Oh, from the tree logs. Oh, okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, yes. So good. Yes, very, very, very good question. So I think if I come back in here, you're probably talking about these checks, like how are we getting these check marks on what's been done or not done? So right now, these are not connected, but our team is underway to connect them to say, for example, if you have a tree log that says you did deep ripping, then this is going to soon automatically check that's been done. But for now, it's not doing that. So even though you have a record that says, we did digging holes, the calendar expects you for now, at least in this current version, is you still come in here and then check off to say you actually did that activity. But soon, it's going to be connected and you don't have to do it in two places. I hope that answers the question. If not, you can unmute and clarify. All right, I see another one. What are some of the data protection policies in place to ensure privacy of my staffs and farm information? Very, very, very good question. And it's so important that in the opening session we had, we talked about the privacy policy and the terms of conditions that we have for farm admin. So put simply, all this information is yours. The data belongs to the farmer, all of it. And as Farm 360, we will not sell your data. We will not share your data with any third party. We will only use the data you provide on our platform to provide the service to you. So to do things like, generate reports for you, analyze and give you insights based on your information. That information will stay uh, on our platform. Our platform is deployed in Canadian data centers, and access is only in terms of who can see your data, it's you only. It cannot be seen by a third party unless you give them access yourself through your user, through Manage My User. If you grant access, they can see it. Otherwise, they won't be able to see it. And in terms of our employees, strictly, it's for providing services like if you need support with training or something is not working and you need somebody to take a look at what you have, it's only in that context that somebody will be accessing your account on your behalf and with your consent, that is. In terms of security, we ensure, for example, that all communication is encrypted. We use HTTPS for the transport, and we minimize the information that we're collecting as well. Every piece of information that we're asking you to enter here is for a reason. It's either going to a report or it's going to do something. So we are very strict privacy and data control measures in place. I hope that answers that question. Is there any other? Oh yeah, and thank you. So we've put a link to our privacy policy. Maybe you could also put in the link to the terms and conditions of service there. Okay.
Maybe one last one. In terms of historical data, say around expenses and costs already incurred, any option to do bulk data uploads, maybe with an Excel sheet or something?
So that's a good question. So is that are you thinking in terms of everything or like financial transactions like
Probably financial transactions. I think that's the one that maybe
right.
would
Yeah,
limit
good.
us.
Good. Yes. So we're going to, and I think a similar question came up. So if I go to transaction, I know we're gonna do financials, a deep dive in the next session, I believe on Friday. But essentially, we are able to support importing your data, at least in terms of transactions, because regardless of the tool you're using, most financial transaction systems will follow the same format of you have a transaction date, a name, some type of category thing, and then you're going to say, is it an expense or is it income and things like that. So because it's quite generic, we are able to import the data, but this is on a case-by-case basis. So if you have it in a spreadsheet or a CSV, we can work with you to import that data. And last time I think somebody asked, could you also export to something like QuickBooks? It's something that we have in our backlog. It's not yet supported, but very much in the pipeline.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. Yeah, go ahead. Was that a question?
Yeah, I wrote it, but I missed session 1. I don't know whether you dealt with how one gets an account. I had to talk about something like an account.
Oh,
We've responded in the chat with the link and the password.
Okay.
Thank you so much, sir. If you can't see it, feel free to drop me your email address and we can send it directly to you, sir. Thank you.
yeah. And in addition to that, if you're part of the ASOK group, we shared links there and information on the promotion code and how to go about that. So in addition to the chat, if you check in the ASOK group, you should also have access to those details.
And there's another question. Is there a feature where authorized users can log in their account, but not get access to everything?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So let me show here. So if as soon as you log in, you've created your profile, you log in, you're automatically the owner of this account. So when you click on your name there, top right corner, you have a menu come up and you can click on manage users. And when you click on manage users, you are able to add other users here, like your employees. Typically, I would expect at a bare minimum, you'd have to give access to your farm manager because they're the ones that are on the ground and they'll be doing these things for you. So under manage my users, you can click on create, and then you can provide their name. You can say, this is my farm manager. And you have to provide a valid email for them. And then you enter their phone number. Okay? 254123456, something like that. And we have a definition of all the roles and permissions that each role you select has. So you want to be careful, especially with the last two, because the first account you create has the owner role, which means you're able to control and see everything. And then you have the administrator role. This is where you'd have an administrator who is able to do almost everything except changing ownership for your account. So you want to give those roles sparingly. And then you have the manager role. This manager will be able to do a number of things, edit things, and so on and so forth, but not everything. And it keeps going down. In this case, if it's kind of going up in terms of what each role can do. So by default, if you haven't specified, we say start at operator, which is just a regular user. And the regular user is able to create a number of records. They can't edit many things. They can't have access to everything. And you want to start there. But this is how you go about it. Essentially, you create under this trial, you don't have any limits, but once we get going outside the trial, your licensing also affects how many users you can create, but they're generous numbers. We basically go like, if you're a small scale farmer, we think about 5 to 10 is sufficient. If you're medium, around 10 to 15 would be sufficient. And it's only when you're a large enterprise that you'd need numbers beyond that in terms of how many people are logging into your account. So, but you essentially go in by clicking on manage users and going about it. So when you click save here, which I won't, when you click save, it'll take about 30 seconds for that account to become active, and you can communicate with your farm manager, say, I have added you to farm admin, and their email address and their phone number will be their password. So the phone number will be the password, and they'll log in using their email address, and they can then change the password to whatever password they want to. Okay? I hope that answers that question. All right. I think we're over time now. So I want to thank everybody for joining this deep dive session. I hope you found it useful, and encourage you to get in. If you have any support that you need, feel free to reach out in that support group created for Kenya. We have people stand by ready to help you. And I hope to see you this Friday for another deep dive session where we're going to be talking about my financial modules, my inventory modules, and my assets, just to kind of help you go to the next level. So thank you, everybody, and have a good afternoon.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.